Well, and I think that the thing about 3, 4, and 5 guys on a team is they're in the thick of it. There's a lot of traffic where they're running in the race. They've got guys all around them, and it goes back to getting out. So it's a matter of seconds. If you're expected to finish about 30th in the race, 40th, 50th, and you get out in the first kilometer and you're in 80th, it's hard to make that up. It's hard to make that up in traffic. It's hard to make that up in sloppy mud.
So here's who we're looking for as the race is underway in the 10K. Oklahoma State, the defending champs, started on the outside in the box number 6. You'll see them in the orange as we are underway to that big starting sprint. They will tighten the pack. They'll run by the finish line. They'll make their way down this stretch twice in this race as they make their way around this Laverne Gibson championship course. Lots of inner loops, Bob, in this track, but for the men, they really take the outside the perimeter a couple of times and only hook through the middle a couple of times. You walked the course. What do you expect for the men in the 10K and the track that they have to go through today?
Well, the outside loops are, considering the condition, not in terrible shape. It's kind of the inside loops that are more sloppy. They're going through a sloppy patch right now. And this is where, in big races like this, you can lose 10, 15 spots just by stumbling in a muddy patch. And you just got to kind of find your footing, shorten your stride up, shuffle, so to speak, and stay kind of your center of gravity, stay steady.
The freshman sensation from Oregon, Edward Cheserek, leading the pack as they head down that front. Again,
sorry, Will, I watched Edward run the Foot Locker Championships last year, and he is a strong runner. And it's going to be, he's had a good freshman season at Oregon, and it's going to be exciting to see what he can do today. He's not afraid, he's not intimidated, he's out there leading the pack right now.
Again, the wind today, whipping hard, 20 miles an hour, gusting upwards of 30 out of the northeast. But on this front chute, Bob, the wind at the athletes back for the most part, a little bit off of their right as they head down the hill. They'll turn back into that breeze after 1,000 meters.
They will turn back into the breeze. They do have some tree cover as they make the turn. When I walked earlier, the wind wasn't too bad after a kilometer, maybe for another 500 meters. But as they get up to the back side of the course, it's going to be howling right in their face.
As would normally be expected, not a whole lot of separation whatsoever here in the early going, and you talked about this could be the great equalizer if someone's going to run down Kennedy Kaduka, who's the overwhelming favorite. You see at the front, Anthony Rotich of UTEP also has gotten off to a good sprint. He's with that pack at the front. But anything can happen. You talked about the ability for some of these athletes to separate. At this time of some of these races, once we get to this 1,000 meters, which is where they're crossing that point right now, we're a 10th of the way into this race. A lot of times you'll start to see a pack of 20 or so guys going. Now, right now, though, Bob, it's anybody's race.
That's right. Weather conditions like today, you just seem, you feel a little more cautious to really push early because you don't know what it's going to be like at 7K, 8K, 9K. So you're kind of just going to wait a little bit longer, wait a bit longer. If you're a front runner, if you think you have a chance of winning, there's nothing really to gain by trying to run away from them after a kilometer in the race.
We will have splits on this race at 3,000 meters, 5,000 at the 8K mark, and then obviously we will watch them down the sprint to the finish. This huge loop now goes all the way over the back part of the property as they're at about the 1,500 meter mark or approaching that at this point of the race. And again, it is a huge pack at the front, and those runners that we expected to see right there alongside Kennedy Kaduka has worked his way into that front group. Rotich is right there. Paul Chalimo from UNC Greensboro, who's normally known for taking the early leads in these cold conditions. They could not get out to that start, but he's up there in that pack. Also a good run from Tom Kerr, individual qualified from Butler just down I-70 here in Terre Haute. He got off to a nice sprint start as well, but still no separation whatsoever. This pack has stayed together. It's one big peloton as they make their way down the backstretch of this cross-country course here in Terre Haute.
Yeah, they're kind of, here's what's going on, in my opinion, in their heads right now. They're feeling each other out. They're feeling themselves out. They're kind of testing the conditions of the ground underneath their feet. They want to know if they have good footing, if they can really press when they decide to accelerate, and that's what's going on right now. So they're about ready to finish in 2 kilometers, get the 2 kilometer mark. and it's still really early, and we're not going to see a lot in the next minute or so.
So Kathuka leading the pack. The national champion a year ago ran in 28:31.3 in Kentucky. He's 13 for 13 in his collegiate career. He won the pre-national race on this track. That was an 8K race just a couple of months ago. He's not going to challenge, we don't think, that 28 barrier. Wouldn't be a record anyway because they had to move the start up a little bit, but he's made it to the front. He's done exactly what he wanted to do at this point of the race, Bob.
He is, and you can see he's testing a little bit. Around that turn, strung out. If you watch it, you can see this subtle stringing out of the runners. Then they pack back up again. He's feeling the field out. He's feeling the footing out, and he does not want to leave this till late. It'll be interesting to see when he decides to make his move, and if anyone can cover that move.
So it's Kathuka with the lead. He's got Kamoy Campbell just behind him on the right. Anthony Rotich just behind him on the left. Those were the top three that we expected coming in, and they've proven so. And you've got right behind him Edward Cheserek of Oregon. So the cream has risen to the top early in this race, in this test.
And I really think that if Campbell or Rotich or Chalima or the other guys have a shot at beating Kennedy, they have to, in the next kilometer, they need to test him. They need to change tempo, surge back off, and see how he reacts to that. That's probably their one chance of pulling an upset today.
There you see just one of those mud puddles. You can see almost having to hurdle over it there. Some of the runners down the right-hand side. This lead group of 10 or so runners now pushing the pace and really stretching the lead as they came down the hill with the wind at their backs, opening up a little bit of a cushion now. As we're approaching that 3,000 meter mark, we'll start to see some fresh times coming in.
You can see a pack of about 10 separating, maybe 11, 12 separating from the rest of the big peloton, and that'll be your front runners.
So this will be the only time that these runners hit an inner loop on this lap around the course. They'll loop back through, and then they will take one more pass down that main stretch that they started on, and now back up the hill and back into the breeze. How does this sort of thin the herd a little bit here, Bob? As this will be the most exposed they've been into the wind so far today.
Well, it will separate the athletes that are fit and prepared and ready to go from the athletes who made a charge out to try to get in position, but really need to be 10, 15, 20 paces back from where they are right now.
So Kathuka continues to push that pace. He's whittled that front pack down a little bit. It looks as if Kamoy Campbell has no problem keeping with him, and now Edward Cheserek's going to come and take a peek up on the left-hand side to see if he might nose ahead just for the moment.
It's really hard to tell from where we're watching, but it looks like Kennedy Kathuka may be the athlete that's changing tempo, and it doesn't have to be dramatic changes in tempo. It can be very subtle, and if he's doing that and he is the most fit athlete, it's going to be a hard day for him.
Look at how much of the track they are using, Bob, because of these conditions. You can see him kind of weaving back and forth, trying to find the path of least resistance.
Yeah, and that is a challenge, and that's part of running in sloppy conditions like this. And sometimes you don't have a choice. You got to go right through the middle of it. And when that happens, the best thing to do is just don't fight it. Don't try to run hard through it. Just get through it and get to solid ground, and then get your rhythm back.
First splits coming through. Kathuka runs that opening 3,000 meters in 8 minutes, 27.1 seconds. You look at that pace, what do you think?
I think that's really fast given the conditions today. I would not expect it to be that. That's well under 30-minute pace. I'm trying to do the math in my head here. Well, I can barely think, it's so cold. But they are hauling. Kennedy is really pushing the pace, and honestly, I'm a little surprised. Now, you can see right now, they're running around this corner here, and that is a sandy material along the fence that the course put down to try to mitigate some of the slop. I walked that, and I think it's actually very soft, and that's going to get tore up. So you can see they're not running on that sand. They're running kind of to the side of it, and it's probably the best footing they have available to them right now.
Team splits at that 3K mark. BYU 6 points better than Iona, and Northern Arizona getting the most out of their pack right now, 209. But again, we're 7K from the finish. Everybody's still bunched together. Take those splits and really throw them out the window at this point in time on the team side.
It is very early, and the strong teams tend to assert themselves kind of 5 kilometers going forward to the finish at 10 kilometers.
And we will get that 5K split when they make one more pass through an inner loop here at Laverne Gibson. Then they will make their way past our position high atop the finish line. That will give us a good view of where we stand at the halfway point. At the front, it's turning into a group of 5. Kathuka leading Campbell. Right behind him with that long hair, that is Andrew Colley of NC State. And then you've got Maxim Korolev of Harvard that is also stuck with that opening group as well, as they'll come through a muddy stretch at one of the lowest parts of the cross-country course and approach that 4K mark.
I'm really impressed with Ed Cheserek of Oregon, the young freshman. He was a strong front runner in high school last year. He's had a good year, and sometimes it takes this to this point in the season for a young freshman to really come into their own as they start to handle and deal with the change, going to college for the first time, going away from home, the training that's involved, and he could be coming to his own right now. But Kennedy is really pushing. They're making this turn. It's uphill, and he is really pushing, trying to separate.
Talked about Edward Cheserek from Oregon. First ever Oregon Duck to win a Pac-12 championship. First since Galen Rupp to win a West Regional championship. He's trying to rewrite the record books for Oregon cross country, and that's saying a lot when you know who has run legendarily in that program before. He's very quickly putting himself on the possible Mount Rushmore of Oregon Duck long distance runners. And he's keeping pace right now with our defending national champ.
It's now a pack of 3. Kennedy Kathuka, Ed Cheserek, and Kanoy Campbell of Arkansas. They've broken away, and Kennedy continues to push. You can see it is almost like he's subtly changing pace as he settles in. They kind of bunch up, then he goes again, and they string out a little bit.
I'm more impressed by the fact that they're just wearing the gloves. It is brutally cold out here, and Kennedy Kathuka, it's a little bit warmer in Lubbock right now, I can promise you that, for the Texas Tech senior.
I do remember running in conditions like this where when they finish, they're fine now when they're running, but when they finish, they may have to cut those shoelaces off. Your hands are so cold when you're done that you can't even function enough to untie your shoes.
Now a little separation as Kamoy Campbell starts to lose the pace, and the question will be, has Kathuka taken it out too fast, and can Cheserek keep up with them?
Cheserek has a nice form for this kind of condition. He's got a good, I call it a shuffle. It's not really a shuffle. He's got great stride, but he moves nicely across the ground. He doesn't get up and down very much. Kind of shortens his stride and gets across the ground, the soft ground, a lot more efficiently.
They have made the turn, and they will run right past where they just started 13 minutes and 40 seconds ago. From there, it'll be another 500 meters or so. They will run next to the finish line, get a sneak preview of where they will be finishing this race. And it is our defending champion, Kennedy Kathuka, leading the field. Edward Cheserek just trying to keep pace behind him. There you see the string of runners on the individual side trying to keep pace, but you see that huge pack coming in the distance. That's where the team title drama will play out over the second half of this race. We will get 5,000 meter splits that will start in about 5 seconds, as Kathuka is the 5K leader at
about 14:35.
Well under his pace that won a year ago in Kentucky on a little bit flatter course, but obviously the weather conditions this year, one of the most brutal tests for athletes, possibly even all time, in this cross-country championship. There you see the splits as they come through, and it looks like it's going to be a question of, can the Oregon freshman just keep up, or is Kathuka going to run away with it? As we watch the rest of the athletes now coming through, you see the bright orange of Oregon State, a couple up at the front, Tom Farrell leading the first of that next pack through, but they are stretched out behind them are the Cowboys. Northern Arizona, a little pack coming through as well. They're trying to keep together.
Watch the pack come through the finish area, and they're just searching for solid ground. A lot of side-to-side motion, just looking for that reasonably firm ground so they can push off and move forward. It's tough out there.
Splits starting to add up a little bit as they come through, and it looks as if Northern Arizona has taken the 5K lead. 81 points for the Lumberjacks, 5 clear of BYU. Nice run for Ed Eyestone's team, who are looking for that first national championship on the men's side. The West Coast Conference champs rested a little bit, got here with a at-large. Their 4 through 7 runners did not run at that West region, and maybe that strategy paying off as BYU at the halfway mark find themselves in second place.
Kathuka's got, looks like maybe he's putting about 3 or 4 yards on Cheserek, and I don't know if that's just through a soft patch. Sometimes that happens, and Cheserek can catch back up. But this will be interesting if this is the move that separates Kennedy from and wins him his second national championship in a row.
Well, talking about separation, you've got those two at the front, and then a long distance back to those 2 behind, and that being Maxim Korolev of Harvard and Andrew Colley of NC State. Kamoy Campbell fell off the pace rapidly as they made the way from that 4K to 5K mark, and it's one of those where the conditions, if you're not at 100% today, Bob, they finally just catch up to you.
Yes, it will separate. It'll expose if you're not 100% ready for this. And you know, sometimes getting to a national championship, half the battle, they say, is getting the line fit and healthy and ready to go. And certainly on days like today, if you haven't done that, it becomes exposed, and it's a tough journey. We were reading the splits, the 5K splits, and I want to remind myself that it is 110 meters short, roughly. So just use those as a guide.
So again, as those scores come through on that team side, we looked at those signature bright orange uniforms of our defending champions from Oklahoma State. We talked about their pack being spread out, and right now they find themselves at the 5K mark in 9th position. So it has not been perhaps the start to the first half of the race for Dave Smith's crew around this very brutal, windy and cold Laverne Gibson Championship cross-country course.
We just saw a shot of the lead, and it looks like Kathuka continues to extend very slowly, yard by yard, not dramatically, but extend his lead over Cheserek.
2-time NAIA champ, trying to be a 2-time NCAA champ, and put a cap on a remarkable collegiate career. Remember, a year ago at this time, Bob, we were all talking about Lawi Lang of Arizona, and would he be a 2-time champ? And we were even talking, did he have a chance at the 4-bagger because he won it as a freshman? Well, he lost that race to Kennedy Kathuka. Lang began this cross-country season saying, I want that title back. Sadly, a leg injury has prevented him from being able to compete in the second half of the cross-country season. He was shut down to prepare for the outdoor portion of the season, and all of a sudden like that, it's turned into the Kennedy Kathuka show around collegiate cross-country. It's funny how in 1 year, how quickly the landscape can change.
It is, and that's why when it's going well, just enjoy it, because it can change quickly. You have new athletes, talented athletes coming into the sport, into the NCAA championships, showing their talents. Injuries are frustrating, but they happen, but they also change the landscape.
Well, you're watching one of the best athletes, perhaps in the all-time conversation with what Kathuka has done. There you see what we were reading off those halfway team splits, and where Northern Arizona, the #1 ranked team coming into this meet, has lived up to that billing at the halfway point, but a long way to go. Anchored by a local product, Futsum Fensalasi of Indianapolis. His sophomore season owns the 5K record on here, so perhaps that 5K burst helping in the first half of the race, can he help lead his team to a national championship? You can see it's about a 10-second gap or so now between Kathuka back to the Oregon freshman, who has not given up the pursuit. Still has him at least in his sight right now, Bob, in case anything happens crazy in front of him.
That's right. It's a pretty big gap, but it's still early enough in the race that it can be made up. If Kennedy pushed too hard, too early, and he comes back, it doesn't seem likely in my experience, but you know, crazy things have happened. Cheserek has a pretty good gap over third place.
Boy, what a great fan support and base out here for this race today. It is a challenging day for everybody, not just the runners, the fans, the folks behind the scenes, you and I up here in the wind tunnel.
I tell you, I think if I was running today, I'd try to be in one of these packs here, just tucked right in behind someone. It's subtle things over the first 6, 7, 8 kilometers of a 10K race in conditions like this. It's finding the least sloppy path through a mud patch. It's tucking behind people in the wind at the right time, so that you just have a little bit more left over on the last kilometer or two. And that's how team races are won. We talked earlier about this third, fourth, fifth place, third, fourth, fifth runner of a team. If they can do those subtle things, if they can do these subtle things to save some energy, they can go and get 10, 20, 30 places in the last kilometer race. Could be enough to win the championship.
That's the first pack. You see there are 6 runners that are all kind of out on their own right now in the top 6 individually before you get back into these mini sort of packs. And this is the time, if you're in it, if you're Northern Arizona, if you're BYU, you're fighting for a first national championship in program history. If you're in these packs right now, time to hit the accelerator and go.
It's time to start moving. We always talked about just this is the time to move forward, one foot in front of the other, and get one guy, get another guy, get another guy, but don't let runners go by you, and keep passing people, keep moving forward. It's really easy to settle in. It's really easy to settle into where you are, but you've got to keep picking people off.
Meanwhile, at the front, Kathuka's still with the lead, but Cheserek will not let him go. And he is closing the gap just a bit. Does he have the kick in him? Keep in mind, the talented freshmen that have come through this program before. Steve Prefontaine did not win this race as a freshman. He was 3rd back in 1969. Luke Paskedra, more recently, one of the most talented runners to come through Oregon. He was just 5th as a freshman in 2008. Cheserek right now is on pace to be the best and highest finishing freshman in Oregon history at this level. He doesn't care about second. He's going to reel him in for first. He's passed him.
And I like what he did. He caught up. He didn't just slot in behind him. He went right by him. said, I'm here, and now I'm going by you. Chase me if you can.
And the crowd goes wild here. Those that see it and those that hear it on the public address system. A roar went up when they heard that.
Cheserek looks great. He's got great form. He's got great churn in his legs right now. Like I talked about earlier, he's got this kind of low center of gravity, and he's just hitting the feet to the ground quickly and turning them over.
A young man who, when he showed up as a youngster, as a prep runner, shattered course records almost everywhere he went. He's now trying to shatter the Oregon program record to become the first freshman to win an individual title. He's opened up a 5-second or so lead. And now the question is, at this point in time, Bob, if you're Kathuka, you see him go by you, how much more of a mental block is it to try and catch up to him as it is physical?
It's hard because Kathuka probably thought he had it won when he dropped him in the first place. I even talked about how difficult it might be for Cheserek to come back. And so when you get caught at 8 kilometers, and not only do you get caught, but that runner goes by you so quickly, it's a mental challenge. They're climbing the hill to probably to the highest point in the course right now, and if he doesn't close the gap coming down this hill towards 9 kilometers, if he doesn't close it significantly, it's going to be difficult to catch him.
So Edward Cheserek has the individual lead, trying to make history, the most highly recruited prep runner of perhaps the last 5 or 10 years. Went from his home in New Jersey. Kenyon, by origin, you see, taking a peek over his right shoulder to see just how far back he has stretched the lead over Kathuka. We pause to show you just how far back it is, and it is a dominant gap now, Bob. Kathuka has dropped off the pace. This is Cheserek's to lose.
That's right. He has put his stamp on this race right now. They're going to make the turn to the right. It's a little, I call it an S turn. It's not technically an S, but it's downhill around the corner, and there's not a lot of left challenging in this course right now. It's just getting one foot in front of the other. He's got a great rhythm, and it looks like he's well within himself.
If he makes that final turn along the back, he'll hit the straightaway. There'll be thousands cheering what has been an incredible race. He could have gone away. Kathuka tried to lose him as much as he possibly could, and he wouldn't go. And now he has opened up an almost insurmountable lead as you take a look at the splits, by the way, on the team side there at 8K and the top team in the country, and there they are. The 3 that we expected have now risen to that top 3, but a lot up in the air right now between Northern Arizona and Colorado.
Well, look how close this is, 19 points. That's a matter of seconds in a team race, 19 points. So as we talked about earlier, the 3rd, 4th, 5th runner for Northern Arizona, for Colorado, for Oklahoma State, if they did the right things early in the race, if they're moving forward, if they're passing people in the last 2 kilometers, that's where they're going to win their team championship.
Northern Arizona, coached by Eric Hines in his 7th year, finished 4th a year ago. It was I wouldn't call it a surprising finish, but it was a pleasant podium for them to finish 4th in Kentucky. They knew the future was going to be bright, but they said, why not this year? And with 2,000 meters to go, they're that far away from saying not just why not this year, but yes, this year. The fans have now sprinted over to that closing stretch. Cheserek has made the turn. All he has to do is run straight, and he will deliver an individual title back to Eugene.
Running straight may be a challenge in this side wind. It is howling stronger than it is blown so far today.
He's not going to have to worry about Kathuka catching him. All he has to do is close. And it doesn't look like he's going to give up the pace at all. He's almost leaning with the wind at his back.
It looks like Korolev from Harvard is charging hard. I don't know if he has enough time to catch Kathuka for 2nd place, but it's a great finish for him.
It was supposed to be the Kennedy Kathuka show. a man who hadn't lost a race at the Division I level. He led the whole way, but with 2,000 meters to go, it's the freshman, Edward Cheserek. Move over, Pre. A freshman from Oregon has won the national championship. He looks back and he'll see the gap that he has. Kathuka looks over his shoulder because Korolev's going to reel him in for second if he doesn't kick it, and I don't think Korolev's got enough time. Our reigning champ will finish second. It just wasn't enough in 2013. Korolev with a hug for him as they come through. And how about Futsum Zenzelasi of Northern Arizona? How about that race? He comes in fourth, Bob. He wasn't in the discussion for 8,000 meters, reeled everybody in, and watch out for that finish. A top four for the sophomore and the Indiana native. That might propel Northern Arizona to victory. We'll have to see as we start to see that sprint to the finish. All of these positions so valuable right now as the runners make their way across the line. Look at Futsum.
There's two, second and third Northern Arizona. Oklahoma State second. Here comes Colorado. Yep. The freshman for Purdue just finished up.
Brian Schrader came through second, I believe, for Northern Arizona. You could see Dennis Alassi and how happy, and he was jumping up and down, still waiting to see his teammates coming through. They're still looking for that fifth runner. Here they come. 4 and 5 come across for Northern Arizona. Will those finishes be enough? That was a hard stretch there at the end, and you can see some of the pain on the face of some of the runners. Oklahoma State coming through the gate. It was a tough final finish for the defending champs. I don't think they got enough down the stretch in the final push from runners 4 and 5, and now we just have to let the scores play their way out. The winning time for Edward Cheserek, 29 minutes, 41.1 seconds. Certainly a slow pace. The course record, a full minute faster than that, but in the conditions, pretty well done. Again, 115-meter head start today, so it wouldn't have been an official time had it been close to the record, but maybe add a couple of seconds to it. What an impressive second half of the race for the freshman.
It's very impressive, and truthfully, on days like today, no one looks at the clock. Doesn't matter if it was 29 minutes or 32 minutes. It's about position and place, and whether you won or you didn't win. And it was an impressive. I was very impressed with Cheserek's effort. It is so difficult to lose contact with the leader and then reel them back in and power past them. That is a really difficult. It takes a lot of not only talent, but I would say experience. So it's a little surprising to see the freshman do that.
Top 5 from Northern Arizona, actually the top 6, now joined by their 7th runner down in the chute. They have not left the first 100 meters from down here. They have a very good feeling right now, and we will have to wait and see when those final results come through if that feeling is justified. So many wrinkles in this race, Bob. It's so easy for us to focus on the individual race because that's what you can see. But now is that waiting time. We add up all of those finishes. Is it enough? Is it a first title for the Lumberjacks of Northern Arizona, judging by their body reaction and that incredible finish by Futsum to come through with the 4th place? You got to feel really good about their chances right now.
They do. It looks like they feel good about it. And oftentimes their coaches know more about the score than we do up here in the booth. But it's all going to come down to how they finish in the last kilometer relative to Colorado and Oklahoma State, although I think they had more ground to catch up.
So what a finish in the men's 10K. Edward Cheserek of Oregon becomes the first Duck freshman to win an individual title. He denies Kennedy Kathuka the perfect run.